Good afternoon, fourth graders. Today our objective is students will be able to determine which cause of weathering, erosion, or deposition created a landform. And our focus words today are analysis, evidence, and landform. And we'll talk about what a landform is in just a moment, but these two words are exciting because it shows that we're going to be thinking a lot today. So we're going to be doing some analysis of evidence, kind of like solving a mystery. So let's go ahead and get started so we can get to that fun part. So landforms are just different forms of land, different shapes that the land can be in. Things like sea arches. This is called right here a sea arch. Let's see if we can see that. And this is, of course, a volcano. We've got a canyon. This is, in fact, the Grand Canyon. It's huge. We have pointy mountains and islands and faults. These are all different examples of landforms. And what we're going to do today is that you are going to be able to actually figure out how they got there, how they got their shape. And we are going to start by talking about how we can tell. So we actually need to be looking for evidence or clues when we're looking at these landforms to figure out how they got there. And we're going to be using our yellow foldable. And we said that one cause of erosion and weathering and deposition that we've seen before is ice. So we are actually going to start with ice. Let's open up that, that little window. And let's see if we can make this go away. Pretend this is not here. And on the side, we should be drawing a diagram. So you guys learned how to draw a diagram last week. I want to see right here, I want you to draw a diagram of what you see here, what the ice is doing. So right now you should be drawing. And you can pause the video if you need more time. And remember, you need pictures and labels for a diagram. And what you're drawing right now is this right here. You can either draw the glacier, which is this huge block of ice in between the two mountains, or you can draw the pointy mountains themselves. And then let's talk about what the evidence is for ice having made a landform. And we're going to write that on the other side. The evidence is actually large spaces between pointed mountains. So since I know this already, I can look at these mountains and I can see that there are big spaces between them and they're really pointy. Right here too. This is a pointed mountain, this is a pointed mountain, there's a big space here. So that's evidence that there was a glacier, or there was ice that actually made those landforms. So on the other side, you're going to write large spaces between pointed mountains, because that's the evidence that shows that ice created those landforms. You can also copy it right there. Alright, so our first evidence that we've seen for ice is going to be large spaces between pointed mountains. We can tell that wind or water created a landform if there are crooked or jagged spaces between rocks. So let's look at this sea arch right here. Remember, this is called a sea arch. We can tell that water created this sea arch because this is really crooked and pretty jagged and between two pieces of rock. So what happened was the waves came and crashed into this thing over and over again, and it wore away this hole. And so we call this a sea arch. This is one kind of landform. And then if we look at the canyon, we can also see really jagged, big spaces between these two rocks. This was also formed by water, and wind helps with both of those two. So wind and water actually have the same evidence, so we're going to write the same thing. And again, you're going to draw your diagram, just like we did last week. Draw and label, of course, these, either the sea arch or the canyon. And then on the inside, you are going to write the evidence for how we know that these landforms were formed by wind or water. And the evidence is up here. The evidence is crooked or jagged spaces between rocks. We're going to write both of those for wind and water. So crooked or jagged spaces between rocks is the evidence for water. And then you need to do the same thing for wind. You need to go ahead and draw your diagram. And you need to write your evidence. Crooked or jagged spaces between rocks. And don't forget, you can pause the video if you need more time. Alright, moving on. Let's talk about earthquakes. So you can tell that earthquakes created a landform if you see straight lines or cracks in the earth. So right here, this is a big mountain, and we've got some mountains coming off of it. You see that it's not a perfectly straight line, but there are straight lines there. Like this is a straight line. This is in kind of straight lines or semi-straight lines, kind of straight next to each other. And then right here, this is a fault, so this is definitely a straight line. So the evidence for an earthquake is going to be straight lines. So we're going to copy that, or cracks. We're going to copy that right underneath earthquake. Straight lines or cracks in the earth. Remember, earth should be lowercase. You should already have your diagram here, so you don't need to draw again. Okay, and exciting part. Now it's time to talk about volcanoes. The evidence of a landform being formed by a volcano is this cone shape here. So if you look at a volcano, it looks sort of like a cone with its top cut off. The point is sometimes cut off or sometimes not. But if you see the cone shapes, or if you see any of these cone shapes, sometimes they're in the water and just sometimes they're on land. That's the evidence that there was a volcano. So we're going to open up volcano, and we are going to write the evidence. And the evidence is cone shapes. So if you see cone shapes, you can tell that that landform was created by a volcano. All right, we're going to skip landslides for today, and we are going to go right ahead and analyze our evidence. So we're going to play a little practice game called the Mystery of the Landforms, and I'm asking, can you figure out how they got there? So I'm going to ask you I'm going to show you some landforms, and I'm going to ask, can you figure out what cause of weathering, erosion, or deposition caused those to form? So here's how we're going to do it. You need to open up, we'll look at those in just a moment, but you need to open up your journal, and you need to copy all of this down. You don't have to do it right now. You can wait until the video is over, and then you can copy the picture from the website. But when you have it copied down, then you're going to be ready to look at the pictures, which are also on the website. We will start with fault block mountains. So what I'm going to do to try and figure out what cause of weathering, erosion, and deposition actually made this happen is I'm going to look at this picture, and I'm going to see, what evidence do I see in this landform that we just talked about? Do I see cone shapes? Do I see straight lines or cracks in the earth? Do I see crooked or jagged spaces between the rocks, or do I see large spaces between pointed mountains? And if I look here, I actually see a straight line here, a straight line here, a straight line here, one here, one here. So I actually think that my evidence that I'm going to write down is going to be my straight line. So I'm going to copy that down under evidence. And my analysis, now comes the thinking part. I have to think, okay, based on the straight lines that I see, based on the evidence, straight lines, I conclude that something, what am I thinking? What is it that the evidence of straight line indicates? Oh, I remember it. Look, it's in my foldable. If you don't remember, make sure you look in your foldable. Straight lines or cracks in the earth actually is evidence of earthquakes. So my analysis, my thinking hard and looking at the evidence and matching it to what I know in my notes and in my foldable shows that earthquakes formed this landform. Alright, so your job is going to be to look at each of the landforms in the picture and make sure that you then write down the evidence that you see and write down your analysis. So when the video is over, you're going to continue to look at the website and it should give you directions. You need to fill in the evidence for canyon and then make your analysis. Evidence for sea arch and then make your analysis. Evidence for valley and make your analysis. And remember, you're going to be writing based on the evidence, and then you have to fill in what you saw. I conclude that, and then you'll fill it in again, formed this landform. Alright, you've got a lot of work to do. I will see you when it is our small group time and at the end of class. Thank you for paying attention, and I will see you later.